and welcome to The Big Picture. I'm Mark Quinn. This week, we take a look at a historic event in South Carolina's history, the 95th inaugural and the inauguration of Governor Nikki Haley. At the age of 38, she becomes the youngest governor in the United States. She's the first female governor in South Carolina's history and the first person of color in our state's history. Today, we take a look back at the day's events Wednesday, January 12th, on the State House grounds at the Capitol. On a cold day at the state capitol in Columbia, Nikki Haley would officially rise to the state's highest office. About to take place was the transfer of political power. After 8 years, Mark Sanford was taking his final few steps as governor of South Carolina. The inauguration ceremony was just one part of a very busy day for the Haley family. The day began at 9 a.m. with a prayer service at Trinity Episcopal Cathedral across the street from the State House grounds. Among the speakers, the Haley's pastor at Mount Orab Methodist Church in Lexington.
Let me take a special moment to share with Governor-elect Haley how proud we are of you. I know your family is proud of you, your friends, the town of Lexington, and how blessed we are and honored at Mount Horeb United Methodist Church to have you and Michael and Raina and Nayland as active members of our church. You've been elected as our leaders, yes, by returns, but remember, no government rules except by the will of God. You have responsibilities not only to the people of South Carolina, but you also have a greater responsibility to the God of our ancestors. The people have decided, and today we come to seek God's blessings on those returns.
The inauguration procession was officially underway at 11 a.m. Among the dignitaries who attended, former Governor Jim Edwards and his wife Ann, former Governor David Beasley and his wife Mary Wood, and former Governor Jim Hodges and his wife Rachel.
South Carolinians must be confident that our government will move forward with knowledge and principle in the sunshine of public view and review. As we strive to do right, we must also face reality. No person is perfect and therefore cannot expect it to be. However, as elected officials, we are and should be held to a high standard of personal and professional conduct. It is a standard we all accepted when we offered for elective office. We cannot be perfect, but we must be an aspiration of what can be when we do our best in the service of others.
Among those taking the oath of office on this day, Ken Ard of Florence, who for many years was on the county council there. He was installed as our new lieutenant governor and would then administer the oath to 7 other constitutional officers.
That I am duly qualified, according to the Constitution of this state,
There is a day I long to see when we will live in perfect peace.
Governor-elect Haley, raise your right hand, place your hand on the Bible, and take your oath. I, Nikki Haley,
I, Nikki Haley,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I am duly qualified,
that I am duly qualified,
according to the Constitution of this state,
according to the Constitution of this state,
to exercise the duties of the office
to exercise the duties of the office
of Governor of South Carolina,
of Governor of South Carolina,
and that I will,
and that I will,
to the best of my ability,
to the best of my ability,
discharge the duties thereof,
discharge the duties thereof,
and preserve, protect, and defend
and preserve, protect, and defend
the Constitution of this state
the Constitution of this state
and of the United States.
and of the United States.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Ladies and gentlemen, I present the Honorable Nikki Haley, Governor.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Governor of the great state of South Carolina, Her Excellency Nikki Haley.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out on this beautiful, chilly morning. On this special day, I want to thank Michael and my two sweet children for their unconditional love and support they continue to show me. We as a family are honored to serve this great state. Michael and I want to thank both of our families for the strength, the guidance, and the advice that they give us during the best and the most challenging of times. They are the constant reminders of what it means to carry ourselves with grace and dignity. We want to thank Governor Mark Sanford for his service to South Carolina and his constant fight for the citizens of this state. To Ms. Jenny Sanford, thank you for representing South Carolina with strength and grace for the last 8 years. Your friendship has meant so much to our family. To the Sanford boys, thank you for allowing the people of South Carolina the opportunity to watch you grow up into fine young men. Rena and Nayland look forward to continuing your games and mazes in the mansion. Today is a great day in South Carolina. It's a day for new beginnings. It's a day to turn the page from the past. And it's a day filled with anticipation of the next chapter of our state's future. Before we talk about our bright future, it's important to pay respect to our past. Our state has an incredibly powerful and rich history. It's one that's not always been pleasant, but one that can teach us many great lessons. We have a history of fierce independence, and that independence has some remarkable relevance for us today. While in 1773, it was the Tea Party in Boston that became famous, there was also a whole lot of tea dumped into the Charleston Harbor that December. We declared independence from Great Britain some 4 months before Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence in Philadelphia. And at Kings Mountain, just over our northern border, our local militia, not professional soldiers, helped turn the tide of the Revolutionary War that brought us the freedom we still enjoy today. Let's see. Tax protests, tea parties, the grassroots beating the professionals. It does have a certain ring to it. Of course, when talking about our past, it would be wrong to mention our greatness during the Revolutionary period without noting the ugliness of much that followed. The horrors of slavery and discrimination need not be retold here. They too remain a fabric of our history and a fabric of our lives. But I do take comfort in and agree with the words of columnist George Will when he recently wrote this about our state's past struggles. If the question is which state has changed most in the last half century, the answer might be California. But if the question is which state has changed most for the better, the answer might be South Carolina. I stand before you today the proud daughter of Indian immigrants. Growing up in rural small-town South Carolina, my family experienced the state and this country at its best. No, not every day was perfect. No, we were not always free from the burdens faced by those who look and sound different. But we counted our blessings, and my parents reminded me and my brothers and sister every day how blessed we were to live in this country. We saw the constant example of neighbors helping neighbors. For us, happiness existed in not knowing what we didn't have, and in knowing that what we did have was the opportunity to better our lives through hard work and strong values. You see, my mother was offered the first female judgeship in her native country, but was unable to serve on the bench because of the challenges of being a woman in India. Now she sits here today, watching her daughter become the governor of South Carolina, the state she proudly calls her home. When you grow up with a mom like that, the word can't is not in your vocabulary. I will always be the proud daughter of immigrants. I will always cherish our family's experience, and I will always strive in my actions and in my words to make South Carolina a place where all of our children, regardless of race or gender, know that unlimited opportunities for happiness and success await them. Today, our state and nation face difficult times. Far too many of our fellow citizens are without a job. Our economy is not growing as fast as it should, and our state budget has the largest shortfall ever. But when I survey this troubled landscape, I am not discouraged. We know that tough times can produce some of the best decisions, and it is our duty to make this time of challenge into the opportunity it can be to turn our state around. It is indeed a new day, and on this new day, we must commit ourselves to the proposition that failure is not an option. When I think on our present economic challenges, I am reminded of the words of Margaret Thatcher, who said, "Once we concede that public spending and taxation are more than a necessary evil, we have lost sight of the core values of freedom." Nearly 2 years ago, the federal government in Washington decided to transfer its irresponsible fiscal practices to the state. And our state, just like every other, accepted it. When we produce this year's budget, we will see the heavy price for having done so. In our coming years, we must recognize that we will not produce the jobs our people deserve by placing higher tax burdens on our workers and our small businesses. And we will not reach prosperity by increasing state government's share of our economy. Be assured, however, that I have every confidence we will achieve a much more prosperous place. And we will do so by going back to that spirit of independence that fueled South Carolina's leading role in defeating the strongest nation on earth 2 centuries ago. When we embark on this journey toward growth and prosperity, we must do so together with one vision. A vision that is focused on the success of our families and our businesses is a vision that is not impaired by partisanship, personalities, or distractions. We don't have time for that, and I won't stand for it. Many times over the last 18 months, I asked South Carolinians to join a movement. That movement was never about one person or about one election. Our state constitution requires the governor and the General Assembly to work together to serve South Carolina well, and serve together we will. The energy that drives our cooperation does not come from this beautiful Capitol building behind me. The energy comes from the sound of people's voices. The success of the movement I asked you to join will be realized when elected officials are accountable for their votes, when citizen participation in government reaches new heights, and when the voice heard loudest is neither mine nor that of any other elected officials, but is that of the taxpayers of this state. In the days, weeks, and months ahead, we have the opportunity to reduce state spending and make it more efficient. We have the opportunity to improve education and allow our children to be successful regardless of where they're born. We have the opportunity to strengthen our small businesses to help them create the jobs our people need. We have the opportunity to restructure our state government to make it more transparent, more accountable, and more respectful of the people of South Carolina. We must seize these inspiring opportunities. If we do, we will have a state where good jobs are in constant supply, where South Carolina becomes the envy of the nation, and where we are so free of political distractions that even the media is forced to report good news. Just imagine that. That is my South Carolina. It's the South Carolina I want for my children and for every family in our great state. So with faith in God, who knows what is right, and faith in our own ability to use the skills and judgment He gives us to do what is right, we can make this vision a reality. Thank you. May God bless South Carolina, and may He continue to bless the United States of America.
From the Capitol, the Haley family made the short trip to the governor's mansion for a 2-hour open house, a chance for the public and many of Miss Haley's close supporters to stop by and wish her well as she begins her 4-year term.
Hi there, how are you? Good to see you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. How are you? Good to see you.
Hundreds of people lined up in the cold for their chance to say hello to the Haleys. Among those in attendance, Andre Bauer, who, after 16 years in elected office, is heading to private life to run his various business interests. Bauer was one of the men Governor Haley defeated in last year's Republican primary, and it recalls a time when the very idea of Nikki Haley winning the state's highest office appeared to many political experts as a long shot at best. When she appeared in the big picture in June of 2009, she had just announced her candidacy. Our topic that day was women in politics.
Women do tend to get scrutinized more, but that's because there's not enough women out there in politics right now. It's more of an opportunity for us to see this as a chance to get outside of those conversations and start talking about issues and substance. That will happen the more women we see run for office. We'll stop to hear more of what they're wearing and what they look like, and we'll start to hear more about what they're talking about.
We do have such a dreadful record in this state, though, of women being involved in elected political office. I mean, the worst in the country. Do you have any sort of gut inclination as to why that is? We just have a problem getting women to participate, and nobody can seem to really give me a good figurative answer as to why that is.
We are not lowest in the country on women elected officials for any other reason outside of the fact that women don't run. We just need more women to understand there's a place for them in the State House. Just like I don't want a house full of Republicans, it's the Democrats that make the debate healthy. It's the same with women and men. I don't want a house full of men. I want to see some women come to the table. They bring experiences, they bring career efforts, they bring family, they bring a lot to the table. We need their voices. They are 51% of the vote in the state, and we need to make sure that the representation shows that as well.
Do you feel like at this point, running for governor, your profile is going to be raised, you'll be on TV an awful lot, that there's going to be young ladies, maybe even young girls in schools who will look at you and go, well, gosh, I might be able to do that one day. Has that crossed your mind?
Oh, of course it does, and I think it should of any other professional. Anything that we do, we need to always be conscious of the fact that there's others behind us, and we need to try and make sure that they don't have to work as hard to get to where we are, and that we make them see examples of how people can lead. You know, in doing this, I know that voters are smart, and they're not going to vote based on gender. What we need to do is focus on what we do when we get out there and decide to run. My issues are going to be strong. The way I handle myself is going to be respectful, and my hope is that I make everybody proud in that process.
Well, you have a beautiful family. You got a husband and 2 kids of age who I know are well aware of what you're up to. What kind of conversations as a family do you have to sit down and go, hey, listen, Mom here is hoping to take on maybe the biggest responsibility in our state? What conversation was that like?
You know, we really are a family of service. I mean, my children are used to it. My husband's in the military, and, you know, I've been a representative for 5 years, so my children are excited about it. We're going to do this as a family. That's how we've always done everything, and we'll campaign for governor as a family as well. Everybody's very excited.
A year after she left our studios, she was the Republican nominee for governor, and the rest, you know, is history. For perspective on Nikki Haley, we turn to Dr. Walter Edgar, South Carolina's preeminent historian. He says that as recently as 40 years ago, the election of a female Indian American as governor would have been unthinkable here.
And that was one of the interesting things about the election in 2010 in South Carolina, is you had 2 individuals running who 100 years ago, well, Nikki Haley being considered a person of color, but the Shaheens as Lebanese immigrants, they were accepted, but the term was almost white. South Carolina was a state where, you know, as late as 1940, we had one of the smallest group of foreign-born folks. Syrian, Lebanese, and Greeks were accepted because they might, at least the term was almost white. They could vote to help because this state,
I think the perception was they had a great business acumen, and they would bring commerce and business and industry.
Well, it was that, but also literally the numbers, because until 1922, this state remained a black majority state. And when the balance tipped white, that was one of the things that the State Chamber of Commerce, and we didn't have an economic development or commerce department then, but they ballyhooed that, you know, South Carolina is now a majority white state, which had been caused by the tremendous black exodus of the first 2 decades of the 20th century. But this election, in terms of the two candidates, had you gone back to 1960, people would have said,
No way.
no way. Even though a kinsman of Senator Shaheen was involved with as Donald Russell's press agent.
Former Governor Russell.
Yeah, Governor Russell, who, by the way, again, we're having the governor having a drop-in. But the first time in modern times that happened was in 1963 when Governor and Mrs. Russell had a drop-in, and it was a barbecue on the State House grounds, and this is 1963,
right.
And it was a drop-in barbecue for all South Carolinians. It was the first officially integrated social event in South Carolina since Reconstruction.
You've been one of the few people you mentioned who has read all of the inaugural addresses over the years, in the
yes.
20th century, now the 21st century, all the State of the States. Have there been some of those speeches given to the state of South Carolina, given to the General Assembly, that have stuck out to you because some of those words rang so true, or some of what you read ended up becoming significant history down the road?
Two. One because it was Governor Blease basically talking about this is a white man's country, and it was about as racist as publicly as anything said in South Carolina by an official, certainly in the 20th century. And then Richard I. Manning, who said, these are challenging times that we have to try things never tried before.
We heard a little bit out of that today from Nikki Haley, who said that we're facing the biggest budget shortfall that we've ever faced before, that I know I've heard her say on many times before, also gives us an opportunity to do things that maybe had been considered off limits before this particular year.
Well, she had quite a laundry list there of things that, you know, and we've heard those before too. I mean, Governor Sanford, you know, reforming state government, cutting the size of the state, but state government has been reduced in size in the last 10 years. As Speaker of the House, Bobby Harrell will be said in Charleston earlier this month. You know, there are 8,000 fewer state employees now than there were a decade ago. So, you know, we are facing perilous times, and it's interesting in the past when we've had things like the Tillman Revolution in the early 1890s. South Carolina turned to Ben Tillman because he promised that government would do things for South Carolinians instead of doing nothing for South Carolinians. So, you know, there can be some hard choices made in the next 2 to 3 months, Mark, and it'll be interesting to see, because I heard one of our state's mottos, you know, we have two state mottos. One is, while I breathe, I hope, and Senator Glenn McConnell used it in his remarks. Our other motto is, be prepared in mind and resources, education. If we're not prepared in mind and resources, trying to compete in a global economy in the 21st century is just a pipe dream.
Inauguration Day would come to an end Wednesday night in downtown Columbia's Colonial Life Arena. After an 8-year hiatus under Mark Sanford, the governor's gala made a return. More than 2,000 people attended the event as Governor Haley and her husband Michael began to wrap up what had been one of the most significant days of their lives.
Thank you so much. What an amazing day and a great day for celebration for South Carolina. And every one of you was a part of it. Thank you very, very much. Michael and I are thrilled that we have a great event. I want to thank our co-chairs, Candy and Kate and Dawson, and Kenyon and Kathy Wells, for putting on such a great party. I want to thank the people of South Carolina for your support. You've been tremendous today, and you've really inspired us to get to work quick. But tonight is all about having a good time. So what I would ask is laugh a lot, enjoy your friends a lot, and have a great time, because this is all about South Carolina tonight. Thank you very much. God bless you.
On Saturday, January 22nd, the Haleys will host one final event related to the inauguration. There will be a family fun night at the State Fairgrounds, where tickets will be $20 per person.
Once again, please welcome.
Well, that's all the time we have for this week, but please remember to tune into our radio show, which airs every Friday afternoon at 1 and Sunday night at 9 on many of your ETV radio stations. You can always follow our reporting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Twitter. Our address there is @TheBigPicture. That's all for this week. For all of us here at ETV, thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
She's a winner. She's a lady. Whoa, whoa, whoa. say what a blessing. I can leave her.
The first couple invite you to join them in the dance.
She's a lady. Whoa, 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 she's a lady. Talking about the little lady. And the lady is mine. Well, she never asks for very much, and I don't refuse her. Always treat her with respect. I never wanna lose her. What she's got is hard to find. I don't wanna lose her. Help me build a mountain from a little pile of clay. Well, she knows just what I'm about. She got them out and amazing. Well, she knows me through and through, and she knows just what to do, how to please me.